Hi everybody, this is video 10 and we're working on showing you how to use my lovely book and my cards, and we've been working from the very inner wheel, which is all about the Akashic records and coming down from very high up in the ether, if you see what I mean, and then into being. We looked at the pentagon, which is our inner family and our family, and now we're into the hexagon, and the hexagon is all about the classroom of life, which lasts about 50 years, and those are the 7 different cycles. So the numbers that are going to be really interesting for us is number 6 and number 7 in this particular video. And what's so interesting is there are only 7 mandalas, so they're almost for the different moments of our lives, but obviously when we're working with them we're going to be picking up different ones at different times and working with them, but we will quite often have one predominant theme that we're grappling with our entire life. That can be happening. Okay, so I just want to look at that quickly in a more visual way, because it's good for our neuro-linguistics and also our neuro pathways, so that we're actually remembering stuff. I keep reiterating it. So this is our inner toolbox coming from the divine. So we've got the I am, the one. Then we had the we are, co-creation, goddess, the 2. Then we joined and we had the Borromean rings and the tripod, the 3, which is what shall we do together. And then we animated it. We brought it alive with prana, with the Holy Spirit, however you want to see the spiral, the catalyst that makes us grow and move and keep going. And then we had the dot, which is the spot, the reason, the goal, and also the tree of life, eating from the food, of knowledge. So we begin to see the difference between good and evil. So now we're beginning to stack up quite a lot of things that we're going to be working with. Then we looked at the pentagon, which was the Da Vinci man, so that we are a man, woman. And we looked at our family. So what creates balance within that very intimate little divine bit of us on this earth. And now, boom, we're plopping down into the Kabbalah, the kind of all the circles of life, the seed of life, the tree of life. So we're into real existence here, and we're into how are we going to cope with actual obstacles and flow, how are we going to keep it going, and how are we going to create balance. And the hexagon, so the pentagon was all about family, home, femininity, fruit of the God's creation. Now the hexagon is the challenge to mankind to recognize his own divinity. And how does he do that? He does it by living in harmony with nature, which is fascinating because that's what we're all grappling with at the moment, and we are coming back to nature. I love this thing of grow food, not lawns. I mean, that's just fabulous, isn't it? So we're doing that. But interestingly enough too, another great symbol is the beehive, and you've got the hexagon, and how important the bees are. They show us how to be in society, buzz around doing your thing. There's a bit of hierarchy, but they're also very selfless. So number 6 is all about being selfless and material and doing stuff. And yes, we couldn't do without them. They underpin everything. If we didn't have them, we would no longer eat, and they say the planet would not survive for very long. So obviously, yeah, the hexagon is a vital symbol, and that's coming up for us too. What we're also going to find comes out of this is the hexagram, which is the 6-pointed star, the Star of David. Did I have anything else to say there? Oh yeah, I thought it was fascinating, just as a little bit of rubbish, but they lay the cell phone masts out in hexagons because it covers space and it's closest to a circle, but it holds form the best. So I thought that was really interesting bit of trivia there. Okay, so just to show a bit more graphically how we get the hexagon. So here we are in our avatar, in our pentagon. We've come down and we've got our circle around us, and then we draw equal circles. Well, in my case, not that equal, but they should be. And you naturally, if you join the dots together, you get, woohoo, ta-ta, you get a hexagon. So that's holding us, and that's giving us our points of reference in society, where we belong, how we show up, and how we will affect, you know, if we don't have an equidistant balance with these points, everything's going to be wobbling, and it will have a papillon, the effet papillon, as they say en français, the effect of the butterfly. It will affect everything. So yeah, it's really important that we work and get our little hexagon sorted out around us. Create these wonderful, intricate, different webs that we will be, you know, I know HIM, I do work with them, you know, they talk about networking. Well, there it is, right there. So it's an incredibly complex and beautiful thing, the hexagon. And what will come up too with this 7 points is the 7 cycles I said earlier, the 7 spiritual building blocks of the mandala, the 7 laws of karma. There are all kinds of 7s in spiritual practices. And we talk about the 7-year itch actually in our common vernacular. So we know that things work in this cycles. We actually know it in our blood, and we'll hit kind of on the 7th year, we'll have a crisis of some sort. And crisis is only for us to grow. Oh, I'm having to breathe anyway, so I'm a bit nervous about this one. Very complex. Okay, so another thing that comes from it, of course, the other one that does, is the hexagram. So we've got the hexagon here, but actually what's happened is we've got 2 triangles joining together. The female and the male. And they form this beautiful hexagram, which is all about balance. It's all about male and female coming into balance on this earth. So it's an incredibly powerful, it's about the reality of our divinity on this earth. You know, we've got balance between male, female, divine and human, spiritual and material. So it's very interesting that, you know, we often talk about 666 being the number of the devil. Well, actually 6 is a really powerful, beautiful, beautiful number, and it's for service and for selflessness. But obviously the opposite of it is for greed and for material, you know, it's all about mine, mine, mine. And it should be for unconditional love too, and letting things flow and being of service in the best possible way. But unfortunately, you know, we haven't treated that number with great respect, have we? So that's something we've all got to learn. Yeah. Okay, so that's just looking at it there. And I just wanted to quickly talk about the cycles of life, because I found that so interesting and it just came up for me now. So the first 7, okay, are for grounding, 1 to 7, creating your immune system and your aura and your foundations. The second lot, from 7 to 14, is all about sexual energy, gender roles, puberty, sports, and people in society. So that's what you'll be exploring at that age. From 14 to 21, I love this, you believe you can change the world, which is true. You kind of get that arsiness, and thank goodness we've got that energy, that new sprouting energy that comes up with the next generation, you know, wanting to help the world. And you find your place, and you want to build it in society, and you want to create something new. 21 to 28 is adult life. Heart chakra, you begin to invest your emotions and, you know, make decisions about family life and having babies, settling down, maybe or maybe not. 28 to 35 is creativity. So if you're not in your creative role by then, you might well have a kind of change of job, or you might suddenly think, God, I'm giving it all up and I'm going to go and write my books or do my videos or whatever it is you need to do. 35 to 42 is when you hit the third eye and you begin to really want to walk the talk, and the beginning of the wisdom, logic versus wisdom, you're finding that balance there. And 42 to 49 is the last cycle. And this is the last cycle. All of that time up until we're 50 is the classroom, is the spiritual childhood. We've been exploring where we fit in, what we do, who we are, what we might like to do. And I find that really interesting because actually when I was younger, I always knew that I wasn't going to start imparting any of the things that I'd discovered until I had grey hair. Well, I'm afraid I really do have grey hair now, even though I hide it. And at 50, I just knew that none of it would make sense, and I wouldn't have that, perhaps it was a belief in what I was saying, but I wouldn't have that wisdom. So in my inner knowingness, I always knew that. So after that, when we get to 50, we've actually got a choice. We either live from our ego, and fear, I better not do this, better not move, better not stay, and we kind of begin the path of decay. Or we really plug into our higher self and cooperate with nature and our intuition, and we start to live our true potential, which we were given at birth. So really become a member of the spiritual hierarchy. So, I think it's wonderful now because we really have got this opportunity. Life is allowing us to reinvent ourselves and do all these crazy things. So yes, that's why there are only 7 mandalas. Here they are. And what I thought was fascinating too, when I was doing a tiny bit of work, is I realized that they fit around the hexagon, and there's one in the middle because there are 7. So they actually have, highest yang spiritual, highest yin spiritual, and then, father, mother, again, it's a similar idea, and then sexuality here and kind of digestion and stuff here, and then these are all to do with phytobiophysics. More I'm talking to those type of people, but who are watching more the practitioner people. But that's interesting. That's how they seem to fit in. Okay, so what did I do with the mandalas? First of all, I was just thinking, gosh, I haven't done very much actually on my own with the actual hexagon, so I might look at it on its own. So I just drew a hexagon without anything else, and then I joined the dots like that and realized that I couldn't believe it. I'd forgotten that you could actually, I don't know why I hadn't put them together. I haven't looked at this book for so long on that level. I've been working with it in different ways, that actually the Star of David, they're so interconnected. Yeah, I know. Anyway, so there's that emerald thing of healing, power. I found it I did like this image actually. It did something for me. I realized the female was being beautifully interconnected. And that led me to do another one. This time I did lots of hexagons growing out from the inner one. And I then had really good fun webbing out all the lines, and realized, yes, of course, what we're doing is we're in a spider's web, and the spider does kind of do hexagons. I mean, probably more complex than that, but that's how we are in society too. That's another beautiful idea, that we are part of the web, the World Wide Web. But we're so important, and each one of us has to show up free from our egos and moving forward. And that, I found that really, I don't know, I found that, and I wrote, what a tangled web we weave. Yes, if we start to make a mess of this, then it will affect everyone else. So how did I work with the actual mandalas from here? I have the cards, so I actually, of course, I just shuffled all the cards and chose one, and I came up with Cedar Hope. And that was really good for me because it's all about standing on your own 2 feet, as we've been discussing, and father energy, so moving and grooving, getting out, being kind of charismatic leader as well, which is going to create lots of lovely harmony for me when I actually allow myself to show my power. So what did I do first? I copied around it as usual, and then I just coloured and painted it. And then I looked at it and I thought, oh, it looks a bit, I don't know, this is a bit overprotective and a bit sore. It seems to be it's not really flowing. I can see there's a build-up of power there, but it's still not being allowed to come out. And the paddles out here don't seem to be really flowing. So I looked at it and I thought, yeah, I quite like this. It's not really doing it for me. What do I need to do? So I did it again. And this time I created freedom around the edges. So I didn't hem it in. I allowed the rosiness to come into the center rather than defining me at the edges, and to be worked out through my system. So if it's in any way pain, or if it's in any way kind of something that needs to be spiraled out, to allow it to come. It's more that way, isn't it? And to continue on. And the green is always a feeling of healing for me, for this chakra, of course, for the heart and the lungs, the inspiration, the expiration. And the blue for me is throat chakra. It's about imparting your wisdom. So yeah, and I really like this actually. It has loads more. It's quite soft and gentle, but it is powerful. And then I put me in there and sort of dancing around with the heart in the middle. So I kind of told my brain, keep it in the heart. Stop worrying in the head. Forget about it, as I would say. Just let it be. So yeah, when you look at these two, I think we can see that they've moved on a bit. So I'm leaving that one and letting it activate. It's something I'm going to use like a vision board and look at it all the time, and I might work at it again. So yes, that's how I use them. I thought we'd just quickly go through the different ones because they are so powerful. So this is olive love, where they work in pairs again. So this is like divine energy coming from above, as we've seen before, and this is earth. So these two would almost go together like that. So you can see the repetition of the balls here, the round circles. And here we've got a much more earthly image of sort of Peter Pan down on earth, the little elf playing under the oak tree. So we've got this idea of the cosmic love and how we are protected in the Merkaba vehicle. And I put a little tortoise in the middle, turtle, to protect, to ground us so that we don't kind of woo off into. And then this is about harmony. You've got the beautiful continuing of the abundant 8 and letting the anger out in the heart. So it's heart chakra. There's a lot in the books on this. So they're both on the heart, but this is the divine. So this in karma, if you see what I mean, is going to be much more to do with very deep inner wounding, even from past lives, which affect our hearts and grief and lungs. And then this one is much more to do with everyday and looking out at the others. And we've lost, maybe in our very beginning of our childhood, we just didn't really connect with the joy of this earth and playing and being and having really good fun and feeling safe. So far more cosmic, far more earthly, but very much dealing with the hexagon and how we are in society. Then the next two that come up are, oh yes, my one, and so we've got that way around. So we've got standing up and being a kind of leader type person, and also being a joyful kind of creative person. But both of them are to do with our families as well, and we have to let go of any kind of family burdens and step out into the world without it, if you see what I mean. So this is mother and this is father. Strength and letting all that inner grief out here. Heaviness, burden, not being a martyr. And this comes up time and time again actually with these. But it's also very hugely creative. And actually I do think this is a lot to do with what the world has been through. You know, that I see this as the world weeping a bit in different ley lines, and then all this junk that we need to, this negative energy that we need to dispel. Male, female. I'm going through them obviously very fast, so that isn't very fair, but there we go. And then here, these are really powerful. So we've got sexual energy, believing in angels. It's when we become sort of very, you know, not impressed by life, disdainful. We don't believe in fairies anymore. There is no fairy dust. Often we've had some kind of abusive thing in our childhood, maybe some kind of something to do with, I don't know. You must read the book actually, because it's very complex, this one. But we've lost our belief in love, physical love. So this is really important. And then this one is more about narcissistic relationships, which we've seen before, or having your mind always set on the wrong goal. So these two, and it's interesting, that one is not so obviously a hexagon, but it's all about coming through the vortex and being birthed out. You should read that one. And then this one is the happy little person who perhaps isn't feeling so happy, that's been splashed into the background and very hyperactive, needs to be calmed down, needs to feel the feeling of oxytocin, of love around. So they're all dealing with making us feel safe and grounded in society, and they are very complex and need to be read. These you do really need to look at the book for, because there's so much information, and you'll see the colours are really quite childish. It's all about, yeah, going back to our inner child, because actually, even though we have 50 years of this playground, the real kind of programming happens in those very early times. That's why Dinah likes to give the remedies to the children as soon as she can. And they can actually work on ley lines as well. These are actually for that. Okay, so that is the hexagon. I'm going to quickly look at the square next time. I was going to include it now, but I thought just get too long again, so I won't do that. So next week we'll look briefly at the square, and then also at the chakras too, which is the next one coming up. So we're actually going to look at the different circles of in our bodies. And those are these special formulas that were coming up next. Anyway, I've forgotten what they're called.